special Q&A today with two non-black belts, but we need them to answer these very specialized questions. So please introduce yourself and what is your educational, what educational degrees do you have?
Smart guy goes first.
I'm John Bender. Around here, people call me Dr. Jack. I have a PhD in chemistry, research chemist for the past 10 years. I have a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from Coach Julius Park.
I'm Dave Zwanitz. I am an attorney, so that means I hold a JD and I pass the bar, of course, to be able to practice law. I'm here in case the chemist breaks bad. I'm a criminal defense attorney.
All right, so the question is, please explain the educational equivalents of each jiu-jitsu belt rank. What are the educational equivalents of each jiu-jitsu belt rank?
I have 2 ranks that I can talk about. White belt was really like preschool, maybe through 5th grade or something like that. You have to, the white belt was really like learning how to write. You learn how to hold a pencil when you're in kindergarten, 5th grade, learn how to write. Jiu-jitsu, when you're a white belt first starting, you're learning how to grip. You don't even understand what the grips are. By the time you get through, or by the time I got through white belt anyway, I then knew how to grip. I knew the basic movements, but didn't really have any game plan for anything. And that's much like, I think that's a lot like, grammar school. But you get out of grammar school, you still don't know what you're doing, but you know how to hold a pencil and you know how to write a little bit. White belt was like that. Blue belt, so far, I've been a blue belt now for almost 4 years, I think. And, and 4 years in, I feel like I'm just barely getting a handle on basic game plans and strategies, just barely. So this point through blue belt, I feel like maybe I'm about to enter high school.
Blue belt's hard.
Which is pretty sad. It takes so long. But I think that's about right though. I feel like I might be getting into high school at this point.
Okay. What do you think?
Well, I don't want to reinvent the wheel and go that direction, but I can say this. I'm 41. I'm a brown belt. I've been training since 2007. So I do talk about this quite often, that there's very few things in my life that I've done for this amount of time can consistently. I've been married for 13 years, I believe. I've been practicing law for about 15 years. I've been practicing jiu-jitsu for about 15 years. It's a quarter of my life, and I have not achieved the rank of brown belt, and I've been training very consistently. I did the competitions grind for a long time. I got a little bit older, and I got a little bit more responsibility at work, so I had to shelf a lot of my competition goals. My children are here training. So I think that I can say that I often look back at the most recent schooling I had, and that was law school. Law school was 3 years. I think I often equate my trek to brown belt as equivalent to law school, and I've been a brown belt for a long time. I've also been an attorney for a long time, and just like getting a JD, there was a lot to learn after I acquired the educational credentials to practice law. A lot to learn. I've been a trial lawyer for 15 years, and I'm learning as much in that pursuit as I do in jiu-jitsu, even post-brown belt. But I think that I would say a brown belt is the equivalent, in my opinion, of a doctorate. I don't have a PhD, so my educational experience was shorter than people with PhDs. Yours is 4 or 5 years, right?
6 years to get the PhD.
No disrespect, that's insane. I was able to get through a JD, which is I think it's less difficult than a chemistry degree, fairly obviously, but still very hard and very much based on perseverance through a lot of really rough times. You go into law school having absolutely no concept of what you're getting yourself into because your major in undergrad doesn't correlate with law. You can major in anything you want. I majored in British literature of all things and then went into law school. I think that's helpful in that I have a good grasp on reading and concepts in respect to interpreting the written word, and that is a lot of what we do in law. But I still had no idea what I was getting into in law school, so it was a complete grind. The first year you feel like you are going to absolutely fail out. 50% of the population of my law school absolutely did fail out. More than 50% of my white belt class is gone. I mean, my best friends now are the white belts that were here when I started, because we've been through hell and back.
Maybe 2 people. I started with a huge group of people. It was like 30 or 40 dudes.
Yeah.
There's like 2 of them.
I mean,
and they don't even show up that consistently.
Yeah, so they wash out. People that I was
It
close
was crazy.
with, people that I was close with wash out.
Just getting the blue belt was a huge thing for me, and it was very hard, extremely hard. I was coming to class 5 times a week, 2 doubles a week, and I think that's why I was able to develop those skills that I was talking about before. Just learning that I gotta have a grip, just learning how to move my hips in some semblance of how jiu-jitsu needs you to have. It needs you to move your hips. It took a year and 4 months of doing that 5 times a week, 1 to 2 doubles a week, and that, I think that's, we were talking the other day about how the time doesn't necessarily correlate with the amount of education that you might get. So I mean, in terms of education, to go through grade school, that's like 5 years. I think if you apply yourself, you can get that grade school education. If I'm correct in thinking that white belt is sort of getting you through that grade school. Grade school is 5 years, but you can do that same amount of attainment in a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
Unless you got a crazy amount of talent.
I was thinking that too, because what we were talking about, we were saying that, how people always say, oh, black belt's like a PhD or something. And I was like, that doesn't even make sense, because PhD, you start school like in nursery school, and then you don't get your PhD until like, 27, 28? So I said, there's no way. But then I was thinking...
But the real grind of PhD-ness is happening much more in your adult life.
Right.
You have to ignore elementary school, high school, and college when you talk about PhD.
Right. Like an adult, how fast could an adult make it through grade school? Like an adult could make it through grade school. That's sort of what you're saying,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, but if you look at the symbiosis between white belts and the first year of graduate school, it's the same. People legitimately failed out. There are people that come into jiu-jitsu that can't grasp the concept.
But that's what you were talking about, perseverance earlier. That's just perseverance, man. If you go into an advanced degree and you just don't have that grind in you, you're not going to make it.
Exactly.
Because it's a crazy grind.
Exactly.
It's a crazy grind.
That's what I'm saying. So there's that. There's people that don't have the grind and they fail out. Then there's
But that's like a knowledge attainment grind. I feel like the grind for beginning jiu-jitsu is much more of a physical grind. Like you have to be able to suffer. Because you're going to suffer a lot.
I disagree with that.
You're going to suffer a lot. You're going to suffer button heads like a couple of rams with the white belts, and then once you get into a more advanced class, then you got to suffer with just the advanced guys doing whatever they want to.
That never bothered me. I disagree.
No, but that's a no. Yeah, it's mental, but it's your mentality is dealing with the physical abuse.
Yeah, but didn't a chemistry degree teach you how to deal with physical abuse? Well, law school is physically abusive.
It was all
physically abusive.
It was all mental.
What do you mean physically abusive? You just mean you can't sleep?
The types of things...
Wait, was that type of stuff?
The types of
that's like
types of things that are happening to you in regards to stress levels and are as physically taxing as being beat, as having your ass beat by a human. In fact, I would take...
No, man, I got super humbled when I started jiu-jitsu.
I hope I was the delivering mechanism for some of that.
I thought I was tough when I started. I realized I wasn't tough at all.
I agree.
I had Del Bruise bloodied my nose twice in one night. And it was like, this dude's tough.
John beat me
tough.
Nah. I think, to return to the question, I think that a brown belt, at least in my experience, is equivalent to a doctorate degree that I have experience with. And I always think black belt is what I envision to be a chemistry.
If I extrapolate my experience, I would say high level of brown belt and into black belt, you're talking about advanced degrees. That just makes sense to me.
I've never run the numbers, but people say 10,000 hours makes you an expert. I don't know if 3 years at law school plus the bar equates to 10,000 hours. I don't know. I have no concept without pulling out a calculator. But I surely have 10,000 hours in jiu-jitsu at this point. Absolutely.
I don't have 10,000 hours.
Right, but how many years? What are you saying?
It's almost 5 years now,
Right.
I think.
I 07. It's a long time. So
It's been 5 years. Holy smokes. I don't really think about it.
What about, how do you feel that outside of the physical changes, the physical, I guess, the sameness of the physical attributes between education and jiu-jitsu, what do you feel about in terms of subject matter, how you approach the subject matter, how you understand the subject matter? How do you feel that that has evolved throughout the different belts? Just as I'm sure that how you view chemistry and how you view law has to be changing, evolving all the time, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
my opinion on that quickly is that at white belt you're wholly reliant upon someone else giving you the information that you need. You have no idea what you're doing, so you need a teacher to teach every single thing. You're not allowed to have any independent thought. Then at blue belt, you start, if you're competing, you start to develop a system that works for you within the set of things that you've learned, and your teacher and you can bounce off each other because you like a certain thing, you have a certain game style, and they can feed you things to accentuate your style. Then I believe at purple belt is the time similar to towards the end of law school where you have to start looking at things big picture. You have to look at your complete game. I found myself at purple belt having an imbalance, I think, between bottom and top, and I really worked hard to fix that, and now I have no identifiable preference. I like being on both. So to me that was the same as getting towards the end of law school and getting ready to think on my own about legal concepts. And then brown belt for me has been really exploring jiu-jitsu even more big picture, like esoterically, trying to think about pathways to positions that I like and develop preferential ways to do that where I kind of in control of my own jiu-jitsu rather than wholly relying upon anyone else teaching me.
I'm still filling out middle school, man. I'm trying to get into high school. I'm just, like I said before, I'm just starting to see those things. I'm just starting to find, over the past year or so, just starting to find the things that I like. Just starting to figure out how to apply some basic concepts that you learned throughout white belt and the beginning of blue belt. Because the beginning of blue belt is really just white belt. But you have a blue belt on. So now that I feel like I'm deeper into the blue belt, I'm starting to be able to apply basic things without having to be told how to do it, and I'm starting to connect different aspects of jiu-jitsu that you learned at a very basic, you're taught at a very basic level. Now I'm starting to be able to put them together, apply them in ways that I like to do them.
Mm-hmm.
But just starting, you know, and like I said, it really feels like middle school.
What makes, you guys are both, smart guys, high degrees. What makes learning jiu-jitsu hard? Like
What
Okay.
makes it hard?
yeah, I mean, we're talking about physical stuff, but like just in terms of like, you guys are talking also about like, I don't know, mental stuff or like actually learning, like going through the subject matter. What do you think about jiu-jitsu makes it such a
Well,
such a difficult
You have to connect. It seems to me like there's a vast knowledge of jiu-jitsu out there. I mean, there's so many different positions, so many different ways that you can approach a position, how you're going to transition from one position to the next. And so you have this crazy amount of knowledge that you have to attain, and then you have to learn how to connect that with your body and make your body do it. So that's a lot different to me anyway than learning in a book setting where I'm just learning concepts and then writing them down or maybe thinking about them. I don't have to think about how I'm going to make my leg move, when I'm going and doing chemistry. When I come do jiu-jitsu, I feel like I have to learn at a pretty high level. You have to think about these things at a pretty high level if you want to apply them creatively and in your own way. But then you have to connect that with your body as well. So there's this bridge between the mental aspect and the physical aspect that if you aren't able to make it connect, it's going to be a lot harder for you.
My opinion on that is that people have less. If you're going to compare your pursuit in jiu-jitsu to your pursuit in your PhD program or my JD program, you have less skin in the game. So, in respect to my program where I went to school, it was like $40K a year. I was borrowing all this money. If I did not succeed in this, I would literally, I don't even know, I would be shameful to my family, I would be homeless, I would have all this debt. So I really knew that going in, I have to sacrifice, I have to give up everything, I have to break up with my girlfriend, and be celibate and all this crazy stuff. that didn't work out, but I knew I had to give up things. You come into jiu-jitsu and you think, I'm going in, you're not sure why you're there. You watch Karate Kid, you want to be good at martial arts, so you come in, you don't realize the level of sacrifice you have to make to be good at jiu-jitsu. I remember coming in, I used to love to lift weights. I was really into it. And I thought, I'm going to fit jiu-jitsu into my weightlifting routine. And then as soon as I made the decision to get good at jiu-jitsu, that was gone. I did not lift weights again until recently because I knew that time could be better spent in jiu-jitsu. Then you realize you really can't be good at jiu-jitsu if you have bad cardio, so you have to do cardiovascular workouts. You really can't do jiu-jitsu if you're drinking alcohol or smoking cigarettes or not getting good sleep, so you give up social life. To be good at jiu-jitsu, you have to give up a lot of other things, and I really believe that it will lead to a very similar effect as a high-level degree will. You'll have opportunities that are presented to you because you possess this credential. If you be healthy to jiu-jitsu, you will have longevity, you'll be happier, for sure. All the things you have to give up to do jiu-jitsu in the beginning end up making you a much more complete human being in the end. That's why it's kind of so magical. That's why people that get past the blue and purple belt level are going to make it the whole way, because they give up the things they need to give up to be good. Some people want to come in and still treat it as a hobby. And if you treat jiu-jitsu as a hobby, in this place, it's going to hurt bad. You're going to get physically abused. But if you get yourself physically...
Depends on what class you go to.
Well, if you get yourself physically prepared for a beating, and then you have to work on the technique part, there's tremendous teachers here, you'll get it. But people are lacking the discipline to be good, or the realization that they need to have extreme discipline. I mean, I haven't eaten gluten in 3 years because I'm getting older and it started hurting my elbows. So I haven't had. When I see a piece of pizza, I'm like,
gluten hurts your elbows?
Salivating. Yeah, gluten makes me if I eat gluten, my joints hurt.
Oh, you have gluten issues.
I guess.
He's made it up, man.
I made it up. My elbow was hurting.
No more bread. My elbows.
Somebody told me to do it. I'm very susceptible to that kind of thing.
So what's interesting is you said you made a decision to be good at jiu-jitsu.
To try to be good.
Oh, to try to be good.
To try to be good by devoting myself in a way that allowed that to happen.
That's a clear thing. I had the same thing. I was like,
you can't just F around here. You're gonna get killed.
I came here, and for weeks I was getting my ass kicked, button heads, and then I had to have a conversation with myself. Do I want to get good at this or not? Because I'm just getting my ass kicked all the time. Am I going to keep going and get my ass kicked because I want to get good at it? Yeah. So that's what you have to. You're going to come up against that wall. Everybody does.
Right.
If you don't, you didn't come up against that
I'm
wall,
not saying
you're
I'm
lying
good.
to me.
At a legitimate place, in anything that you're trying that has skill hierarchies,
Yeah.
and it's legitimate, you need to. I feel like you have to have that soul-searching moment. Like I had that moment
Yeah,
at...
but you go into law school and chem school knowing you're going to have that. You have that moment before you even go. You're like, I am going, I got in, I can't believe it, I had to apply. You don't have to apply to be here. You just come in and say, I would like to be a part of the school. So there's no mechanism to hit that switch for you except hitting a wall. And a lot of people just falter when they hit that wall. But people like you and me that have been through some stuff before are like, okay, I understand. I have to now give up everything. to do this.
I started jiu-jitsu when I was near the end of my PhD. I was like a year out or so, and I needed to get my kids involved. And I was like, well, I don't want to throw my kids in here and not do it myself. I was like, I want to try to lead by example with my kids. And then I was like, fuck, what did I get myself into? So, I think you're right. I mean, the higher level of education, you have to persevere through that. So, having gone through that,
Sacrifice.
Yeah, having gone through that, I had something already there that pushed me through all of those barriers.
Oh, I got news for you.
That you run
Dr.
into.
Jack, we also knew that. As soon as we hear you had a PhD in chemistry, we're like, oh, this is good.
Chris Kim said that you were
This is
going to
good.
make it within like 2 weeks.
Yeah, we all.
Did you know that?
I knew
What?
that.
Make it to what?
He said,
Whatever
I
you
said,
want.
who do you think? No, I said, who do you think's going to make it through white belt?
Oh.
And Chris was like, I think Dr. Jack.
Me too.
He said it right from the beginning.
Me
I don't
too.
know if I ever told you that. But remember, Chris Kim used to teach the class, and he was like, I'm pretty sure Dr. Jack's gonna make it. So like,
Call doctor. Anybody who can just say that doctor anything is going to make it in whatever they decide to do, right?
so we should just call everybody a doctor.
He's a real doctor. Some crazy stuff.
So that's a.
You can like mix up chemicals and make
a-
bombs.
That's
Whoa.
there's an important thing to say here is that all PhDs are not created equal.
All jiu-jitsu belts are not created
Exactly.
equal.
But
Yes.
all chemistry PhDs are high level. Come on. Come on.
I've seen some. I've met some PhDs where I'm like, this guy's got the same. degree
I took
got.
one
This is
chemistry
crazy.
class and was like, I'm going to law school now. This is I'm going to law school.
Yep.
No, I'm talking about the PhD. Once you get, I mean, if you're gonna do undergrad is undergrad, right? Everybody can get through that stuff. But if you go to a high level PhD program, it becomes really hard, really really hard, and there are other chemistry programs out there who are going to give you a PhD, and they're not going to be on your level.
When you
necessarily.
say all PhDs
Now I've
are
been
not-
on both sides of that. I've met people who I was like, wow, I can't even believe that person has a PhD.
Do you guys make fun of lawyers?
Everybody
we make fun of everybody.
Everybody makes fun
we
of
make,
lawyers.
We make fun of
baby.
everybody,
Oh, man.
except for like physicists.
Yeah.
Physicists.
Math. What about mathematician? Yeah,
Yeah.
math is high.
No, everybody makes fun of mathematicians.
Oh, shit.
Math
Really?
is hard, but they're super
When
weird.
all those shapes that I don't even know what they are.
The
like,
chalkboard
yeah,
thing. No.
There's
They're
like
super weird.
triangle X,
Yeah.
X,
Uh,
Y.
The music sign. They do the music sign.
What?
But, you know, I've been on both sides of that. I've met other PhDs where I was like, that dude is on another, or woman is on another level. Like they made this shit their life. You know, that is their life. They sacrificed even more than I did.
Mm.
You know, so
Oh, and we've run into those
there are
people in
levels.
jiu-jitsu,
There are
too.
levels to this shit, man. The PhD does not mean you are like the smartest person in the world.
That's what I'm saying. When you
To
get a
any
JD,
extent.
you still have so much to learn. When you get a chemistry degree, you still have so
Oh,
much
yeah.
to learn. So
Oh, it
I
never
think
ends. It never
think
ends.
it's
I'm always
brown
learning. I'm always reading.
Brown belt
always
is-
learning.
brown belt is the
But there are guys out there. So like, I was thinking about like trying to wonder what black belt is like. So if I just assume that getting a black belt is like getting an advanced degree like a PhD. You know, there are PhDs like me who are like, I'm sort of middle high of the pack. You know, I went and had a very successful postdoc. People were offering me jobs. I probably could have gone and tried the professor route if I wanted to. I have all the credentials that you need to do that, but I wasn't willing to give that level of sacrifice. There are people out there, man. You know, they just go all in. You know, they get all the credentials and then they take those credentials and they sacrifice everything else. You know, they don't have a family till they're 45. You know, they work 80 hours a week trying to get their lab going as a professor. So, to me, like a professor is that a professor at a R1 research school to me is like somebody who opens their own jiu-jitsu school and devotes their life to teaching other people and or a high-level competitive black belt. There's like two ways that research professors go. You know, they go sort of the teaching route, or they go sort of the I want to win the Nobel Prize type route.
or one before the other. They're competitive.
Yeah, sometimes they
Yeah,
weave back and
yeah.
forth. Yeah, for sure.
Man, I think you just nailed it. I don't think there's anything to add. You nailed it. That's exactly right.
There's a lot. You have to make a decision at that level, and I've come up against it. You have to make a decision to how much you are going to sacrifice to get to a certain level.
I agree.
You don't really understand what it is until you get to it too. Like, you just don't get it.
I agree 100%.
Before you know it, one day you just wake up and you go like, how far am I going to go with this? You know, am I willing to what am I willing to put on the back burner to get to whatever level I want?
Yeah, you keep on
So you got,
repeating,
and there's lots of levels you can pick.
The theme is the higher the level, the
More
greater the
sacrifice.
The
Yeah.
sacrifice is the thing.
All other things being equal.
is the
Absolutely.
missing link in between.
You equalize talent. Absolutely.
Cool.
That's why the belt turns colors, right? It's like you're sacrificing your white belt, and it's organically changing it to a darker color until it gets like
Covered in dirt, so it becomes.
Well, I mean, depending on where you go, man, anybody can get a black belt, right?
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's getting worse, you know? Like, for sure. Getting, like, you guys are saying that you have, like, soul-searching moments in white to blue. You, like, I guarantee you there's black belts who never had a soul-searching moment. And to me, that's insane. I would be like, how do you make it from white to black belt without some soul-searching moment?
So that would blow my mind. If somebody was just
things-
like, I just skated through to black belt, I'd be like, what?
I can't even imagine. I
You
experienced
have-
things
you have
like
to
blue
be in a
belt that
very weird
changed
place.
My whole life. The earth went into slow motion a few times in blue belt, where I felt like I was on another astrophysical plane of existence. For real.
I've had a few though.
You get to a weird place sometimes.
Competing gets pretty intense.
Yeah, competing. And also you learn, another thing that's cool about the progression in jiu-jitsu is it takes a lot now to get you, like, nervous. I remember being really nervous about jiu-jitsu, and now I don't feel that. And the same thing about my work. I remember being nervous about a trial, or driving while suspended trial or something. Now I don't have those feelings at all. I get no
I
nerves.
used to feel like I had to prove myself physically in certain situations, and I don't feel that anymore.
There you go.
I'm totally relaxed, and I don't feel like I have to prove anything to anybody, because I feel like I've done some of that here, and in a much more real way. So I don't have to do that out there.
Yeah, good lesson.
So what would you tell? Since you went all the way to brown, you went all to blue. What sort of like lesson would you give to that new white belt who's coming in? You know, he's like all happy, naive to a certain extent, and they are just loving jiu-jitsu and they want to go a little bit further. And you have to be that wise sage, getting them ready for this journey. What are you gonna tell them?
Well, what kind of blue belt do they want to be? Because if
Well,
you
there's
want
no
to be a
choice
blue
here.
belt, if you want to be a blue belt here, and so long as you guys keep your standards the way they are, it is not easy. It's not easy. When you gave me my blue belt, I said this is one of the toughest and coolest things I've ever done, and it's absolutely true. It's so hard, and you have to get your ass beat so many times.
John really traumatized you, man.
I went home. Excuse my language. I went home fucking pissed one
Really?
day.
Have you ever cried? Have you ever cried at jiu-jitsu?
I cried one time when
cried.
I went home because I had bursitis
Oh,
in
I've
my
cried in the
shoulders.
car on the way home many times.
I got home and my shoulders hurt so bad from bursitis
No,
that
I
I
didn't-
laid in the bed and cried like a
Doesn't count.
little
I'm not
girl.
talking about crying from injury. I'm talking about emotional crying.
No, you're supposed to just be silent without music, and then you just
Oh, I've
drive
done
home,
that. I've
and
done
you
that.
just drive, and
Yeah,
you're
I've
like,
gone past
So
exits. I've done
I
it all.
think I was like the stereotypical spazzy, sort of street fighty type guy,
Ooh.
and you know, I didn't realize what I was up against. You know, and John put me in my place. You know what I'm saying?
John's super good. John's
John
super
put me in my
good.
place, and I got really mad at him one day, and then that was one of those soul-searching moments where I was like, you know what? You were not like taking it easy. You know, you weren't going in there and giving him the respect he deserves. You were going in there trying to be rough and fast and like try to show people that you're tough. And
You're
then
big enough that that's a dangerous decision to make.
he showed you you exactly where you are, and you got to accept it. It was a real moment for me. It was really important in my life.
one time we found Dave outside in the grass.
Oh yeah, I mean.
Remember that? We had to call Kathy.
Yeah,
you were
so
in the
I
grass.
was in the bushes. No, in the bushes. In the bushes at the old school. I was in the bushes, unconscious in the bushes. Things have happened. Some things have happened here that are illegal.
I cried
Illegal for
like
sure.
a baby. My shoulders hurt so bad. I was like, why do I keep going?
The same thing
Why do I
happened-
keep doing
The
this?
same thing happened at law school a few times. I definitely
Oh.
was in the bushes a few times at law
Absolutely.
school. Over
Absolutely.
numerous things.
Absolutely.
And these are important life. These are important accentuations of
I think the
life.
dropout rate between white and blue is about the same for my PhD
Oh,
class.
I agree. They do that thing in law school where they tell you like 50% of the class is gonna fail, so don't get too close to your neighbor because you're not gonna be.
I would guess that a quarter of the people who started my PhD program got through. So
Quarter? That's
it might
a lot.
be less.
Another
it might
thing-
be less.
Another thing to really
Less here.
Oh.
Another
It might be
thing that-
less people getting from white to blue
So-
than it is to get a PhD.
just so we're not tooting our horns too bad, you can also be taken out of jiu-jitsu and your PhD and your JD program because of life. Like
Yeah.
because,
Oh, yeah. Well,
because of
that's-
what you
that-
have to sacrifice.
that
Let's
happens
just
to
say
me.
you have a change in circumstances, you have a health issue, this is a sport that requires your body to be in physical condition. So if anything happens to your body, you could drop out. So you have to be really fortunate that you don't have any health problems. Health problems can pull you out of your schooling too. You have to be a little bit lucky too. You have to fall into the right.
Well, life got in my way. I first started my first year here. I was, like I said, I was in sort of the end of my PhD, so I had everything humming, and so I was able to come here 5 days a week. You know, I was able to train 2 times, doubles, and all that stuff. But once I got into my next level of research in my postdoc, I had so much time commitment for that. I had to scale jiu-jitsu back. It was.
There's also things that happened in law school that happened here or in my jiu-jitsu experience, and that's that people react oddly to the stress that is imposed upon you, and it pushes you out of a social circle, and it doesn't cause you to be embraced because you're being weird. And that happened at law school to a lot of people, where they were weird, and then they never kind of fit in, and they just washed out because they didn't have the help. You can't do this by yourself. You need coaches, you need friends. When you're in the bushes, you need people to come get you and pull you out, and call your wife and your girlfriend to come get you. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've driven people to the hospital, or driven people where they need to go, or just talk to people. They're having a hard time, or just let people be themselves. Let people be pissed. Let people have a bad night. So you have to try to be, as a white belt, try to be a little bit socially aware, look at the people around you, and realize that most people are here to try to help, not if there people are offering you advice or what have you.
I mean, some of the nicest people I've ever met have been here, and everybody who's gotten, as far as I can tell, anybody who's gotten at least to the level that I've gotten, I mean, everybody has a respect.
But you have to earn,
for the people
it a
who've
little
gotten
bit.
there.
White belt has to earn it a little bit. It's not.
Oh yeah, I'm saying if you stick around and you get past white belt,
Yes.
you'll see the respect that people give you, and then you'll end up giving the same respect to people coming in behind you, and people here. Maybe nice isn't the right word, but definitely respectful. Everybody's respectful around here. Everybody gives you the space that you need, or recognizes that maybe you don't need space, so that everybody's willing to help you out with jiu-jitsu around here. And to any white belt who says they want to be good at jiu-jitsu, just keep coming, man.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
But you gotta come. You're gonna have days where you're like, I don't want to go, and those are the days you hear it all the time. I've heard that a million times. But the days that you don't want to come are the days that you gotta go.
And don't do that thing where you say, I'm going to wait on my jiu-jitsu until I get physically to a certain point. Let the jiu-jitsu
Nah, man.
drive you there. That's so
My
common.
daughter asked me that.
That's
the
so
other day.
common. I'm gonna wait.
My daughter was
I'm
like,
not
I
gonna
just
train
want
with
2 more weeks in the other class before I start the
Don't do
AP
that.
class. I was like, nah, man, you just go. You're just gonna go, and you're just gonna do it, and then it'll be fine.
When somebody at law school says, hey, do you want to come to this study group? We have all the answers. You say yes. You're not like, oh, let me study a little bit. Come to your study group.
Yeah.
You're just like, yeah. There's a lot. Yet white belt should be yes, sir. First year of law school or PhD program, I would imagine, is yes, sir, yes, ma'am, whatever it is. And that's how it should be for a long time, until you feel comfortable enough to independently think. You shouldn't think at all.
Yeah, when you first start jiu-jitsu, or at least when I first started jiu-jitsu, I didn't know anything. And you have to understand that you don't really know anything, and that there are a lot of people around you who do know a lot of things. So you just listen to what they have to say. That's how I approach learning anyway. Once you start getting some knowledge, then maybe you can start thinking about your own stuff and applying that knowledge in a way that you like to do it. And maybe you can even challenge somebody, but you got to be able to back it up.
I end up learning
in the
about
beginning. You don't have anything to back anything up, so you just listen. You just listen and learn. Show up.
When did jiu-jitsu become more fun? Or say, how do you compare the funness of jiu-jitsu between the belts? Because white belt definitely is kind of crappy. I mean, I don't know. It's exciting, but it's crappy. It's like being freshman in high school. That's what
I disagree. I think
I
white
don't
belt
really
was
ever have
super
fun doing jiu-jitsu, to tell you the truth.
What?
I don't. It's always. It's not fun in the. It's not fun like when I'm riding a mountain bike. It's just me. I don't have to try to exert myself on somebody else. That feels like fun to me. When I come here, I have fun in terms of coming to class, learning things, interacting with people. That stuff's fun. But when I'm doing jiu-jitsu, that's not fun to me.
Wow.
It's a challenge, and I'm trying to
This is a serious
I'm trying to
revelation.
complete that challenge.
I have fun every time I'm sparring. So when did it become fun? When it became fun for me when I was good enough, had enough moves in my acumen that I could do the drilling portions of class without losing track of what was happening. Because I'm not that good at focusing on drilling. I always trail off, and when I became comfortable drilling is when I really started having fun in jiu-jitsu, because I'm here to spar.
No, jiu-jitsu class is fun. The actual act of doing jiu-jitsu in a competitive manner
Are you talking about
it's
just
not fun to me.
competition?
Competition,
It's
hard
not fun.
sparring. I mean, if we're just going light and just playing around, yeah, that's fun. But to me, that's not really doing jiu-jitsu.
So you're sort
and
of
only jiu-jitsu.
So you're sort of like saying, like, if I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go lift, I'm gonna go do like squats at the gym.
I don't
and I'm
find
like,
that fun.
I'm like, this is not fun. I might enjoy going to the gym, but it's somehow I don't view the act of doing squats as fun, even though it's sort of part of a
know,
fun
because
experience.
I view the actual act of doing jiu-jitsu, where I'm trying to exert myself and impose my will on somebody else, as a challenge, and it's not necessarily something I want to do. It's something I need to do. That's how I view it.
We have a tradition where you clap and bump. Everyone knows that. That is when that's happening, I am in the absolute happiest moment, because I always think I'm going to kill whoever I'm sparring. Even if I don't. Even if it's somebody that I know I'm going to lose, I always feel in my head like, this is it. They're going down. and I clap, and I'm so excited. And then it doesn't happen for me, but all the time. But man, I love that. I love sparring.
Cool.
No, I
love it.
I like it, but I don't find it fun. I find it to be necessary.
You love it, but that's interesting. I don't think I love anything that I don't have fun doing.